Hi folks, in this video I wanted to do a quick wrap up of all the models that I painted throughout 2024. So I thought it would be a nice opportunity just to go through each one in turn, the highs, the lows, what I've learned, little things that I'd do differently maybe, and maybe also talk about models that I want to do in the future. So let's get started. So the first range of models I'm really pleased with this year, actually it's probably my top pick, is the Masters of the Universe range. Now all of these figures are by a company, LA Figures. I'm not sure if they're still producing models or not. They've been a bit quiet over the last couple of months, but let's zoom in and take a closer look. So the first model that I made from this range was Trapjaw. This is kind of the one, once I saw that these guys were starting to do the villains, that was when I knew I had to step in and start doing these models. Now the good thing with this one is he actually has a option to switch out the hook, so you can do that and replace it with a gun. So I did both options, and there he is with the gun. So I think I prefer the hook, but it's nice just to have both options. Run alongside him is Skeletor. Really like this model. Really like the base, very reminiscent of the old He-Man cartoon. And again, I used a lot of reference material from the cartoons to sort of pick out the colour choices. Also the action figures as well. The old original action figure for Skeletor had a lot of green and yellow to the skull, so I tried to capture that. Moving along. Now all these models are in 1/8 scale, so I have actually scaled up the files. Now, pure fluke, that was the size I picked just because I thought it was a good size, wasn't too big, wasn't too small. As it turns out, it's just as well because that was the maximum size I could have printed Battle Cat on. The sort of back half of him literally took the printer, and I got a Saturn II printer, so it's a fairly big build volume, and yeah, that took it up to the maximum. Again, lovely model this one, nice and big, and definitely into scale with the rest of them. First time trying to paint a tiger mouth. So again, had to do sort of research there on sort of the colours to try and match. Next we've got He-Man. He-Man has a swappable sword and axe. You can swap those around. I did the sword in chrome. This was my first stab at chrome painting, just to try and make the sword stand out a little bit more, give it that sort of magical effect. We got Teela. I think Teela's face is probably one of the best paint jobs I've done on female face this year. I've painted quite a few female faces. And yeah, I think with each time you sort of learn a little bit more. Not too much to say to this model. Again, it's a lovely sculpt. One thing I did do actually, the paint up for this model actually features a different colour for the shield. After I painted it, I realised that the shield needs to be more red in colour. And then finally we have Man-at-Arms. Again, very good sculpt, matches in with all the rest. And my attempt to do orange armour, and the secret to do that was painting it gold and then doing an orange wash over it, which worked pretty well. Onto the X-Men models now. So this is kind of my first sort of dip in the water, just to sort of do some comic models. And the first one I started with was Psylocke, and again, this was modelled through LA Figures. After Psylocke, I think I went and did Rogue, again by LA Figures. Nice model this, obviously she's got that sort of flight look. Difficult model because obviously you've got yellow, which is never the easiest colour, but I kind of invented a kind of a 3-step process there, and I was quite pleased with the result. And then the last one from LA Figures is Jean Grey. Quite an interesting base on this one. I believe I glossed the base to give it this sort of pearlescent reflective look. And then one that fits in really well with them, but isn't by LA Figures, this is by Wicked, this is Mistake. And so I shrank the files on this one down to 1/8, as they come in 1/6 scale normally. Difficult one to paint also because of all the white. White is never a nice colour to paint. On the very top shelf here is 3 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle characters. I started off with Raphael, I then did Rocksteady, And then the last one I've done was Bebop. And again, you're probably hearing a theme here. They were all by LA figures. So more into this, just sort of the models for fun category, I did these 2 Star Wars models of Greedo and Admiral Akbar. And you can tell they're in that kind of chibi style with the big head. I opened up one of my glass cabinets to find the Thundercats models. So this year I painted up Panthro and Snarf. I've just managed to fit all those Thundercat models I've done so far onto one shelf in my IKEA Detolf. On the shelf above that is another model I did just for funsies, and this is Beastman from Motu, but obviously this is a much more cartoony, simplistic style, and he's also a lot smaller. He's probably about 6 inches high. I did my own thing with the base on this one, and again tried to sort of give it that Snake Mountain look. Now, not everything that I paint is 3D printed. These are 2 very old vintage lead models by Games Workshop. So we've got 2 Space Orcs here. The one on the right I have made a video for, and the one on the left I haven't. I just painted that for my own benefit. Painting little models like this definitely keeps your painting skills sharp. It's a very different way of painting when you're painting something so small. And when I say small, just to give you a point of reference, there is my thumb. So yeah, pretty small. So something else that I made just for my own benefit, there was no video on this, was a Luke Skywalker figure. So this is a fully movable action figure, and it has been 3D printed and based on the original. So here is the actual one. And so I made a kind of a 6-inch version of that figure. Why did I do that? I don't know. I just felt like it. And then for good measure, I also made a Stormtrooper in the same scale. Oh, and I also made it so that lightsaber extends just like the original. Now, off to one side, guarding a vintage Jawa figure, is a couple of my Jawa statues that I made. Now these are from Star Wars 3D, the sort of sister company of Wicked, and these guys are done in 1/6 scale. Now on to the last couple of Star Wars models that I made through the year, and we're going to start off with Chopper. So this guy again is in 1/6 scale. I'm not a huge fan of the Rebels and Ahsoka TV show, but I really like the design on this little guy. Sometimes you just see a model that you just really want to paint. It just looks good fun to build. And he is in front of a couple of models I made last year, the Stormtrooper and Heavy Clone Trooper. And finally we come to Boba Fett, the last of the 1/6 scale models I made through 24. Now this guy was a lot of fun to paint, but he was a big challenge. There is so many different colours on him. You have to really sort of get out all as much reference material as you possibly can to try and follow all the paint colour schemes. But the level of detail on him is absolutely incredible. The one tricky thing from a sort of modelling point of view was the cape was 2 separate pieces. Cape's never easy to stitch together, but luckily I kind of got around that by painting this kind of pattern here to sort of break up where the seam line is. Now this guy actually came with the option of 2 different heads, so you've got the helmeted head and you've also got an unmasked version. And so of course, me being me, I had to do them both. So what I did is I magnetised the heads and the neck, and here's the unmasked portrait. And by magnetising them like that, it's really easy just to quickly switch back and forward, whichever option you prefer. This guy took quite a long time to paint. I think I spent the most time this year on this particular model. As I say, the paint scheme is pretty complicated. At first it doesn't look too difficult, but then once you really start breaking it all down into the many different colours, making sure that you've got all the right markings and everything, it does really become quite tricky. But as I say, it's a fun challenge, and to be honest, it's probably one of my favourite models of the year. So thank you so much everyone who has watched my videos throughout 2024. I plan on making lots more through 2025. I'm going to revisit most of these brands that I've done before, so we're going to be doing lots more, hopefully lots more anyway, Motu, X-Men, Turtles, and of course Star Wars. If that sounds like something you want to see, then please consider subscribing and you can see how the collection grows in the future. As ever, I will continue to do painting tutorials on all the models I make, so if you want to, you can follow along and you can also make these models and have a very unique collection all of your own. So take care everyone, and I will see you throughout 2025 in all my modelling videos.